So I never. Okay. Let me slideshow. All right. Let's see here. Hello, everybody. This is Coach Rod. We have Coach Zeb joining us. I didn't realize when I set the time that the World Cup game would be starting right now. So apologize if I see some of you guys keeping an eye on the screen over there. I totally get it too. But nice to see you guys again. I would say if you want to have any questions and ask any questions, please continue to type questions in the chat. Make sure that you're on mute the whole time, at least for the beginning. Coach Zev, who's with me, and we'll talk about it. I'll introduce him. We're going to do something fun at the end for some players. If they have some videos, he'll explain that in a little bit, in which case, of course, then you can come off of mute. But just a reminder, stay on mute the whole time. If you have any questions at any point, just put them in the chat, and then Coach Zev or I will definitely get to them. Of course, we want to make sure that you guys have all the questions that you guys need. So again, any questions you have at any point, just type them in chat and I'll go back and forth. Okay. So welcome. We're looking forward to camp. It's going to be an exciting one and can't wait. But for the beginning part, I guess I would say is the goal for us is just to try to help you as we progress and we move forward through this process of recruitment. So let me talk to you a little bit about myself. Head coach, right? I've been head coach at Occidental for 16 years. Division 3. I played at Division 1 level for 4 years as well. Played professionally after that for a little bit. So I've gone through and lived through this experience, as a player myself. Of course, you can imagine, there've been a lot of connections with college coaches. I'm an MLS Academy director as well. So I'm able to pick the brains of pretty much every coach in the country, which is exciting. I also have 2 children that are about to start this process, of course. And then, over the last 15 years, we've sent over or I wouldn't say we've sent necessarily just us, but over 500 kids that have come to an elite camp have gone on to play college soccer. So we certainly have played a part in players finding a home in their college soccer career. And then I want to introduce you to Zev, Coach Zev, the college soccer guy who's going to be with us. He's going to introduce himself a little bit. He'll tell you about himself. And then Zev, I also want you to warn, the people, hopefully what we can do at the end as well and get them prepared. So go ahead, Zev.
Sounds good. Thanks everybody for joining us. I actually recognize some faces, and as Rod is already implicated, I want to say part of my job is to make sure we get you guys as much information as possible. And this is really the best camp. And I've been to a number of them as a student, as well as since then as the college soccer guy. I think some of you have seen me online. For those of you that don't know me, I played college soccer once upon a time. I then played pro soccer for some time. I never made my high school team. And actually, Rod recruited me once upon a time when I was in high school. And in truth, I did not have the grades to go to Occidental. And then I started posting online to help you guys get recruited. And you guys, if you don't know me on Instagram, it's called Soccer Guy. Some of you will recognize me. And at the end of this call today, what we're going to do is I'm going to pick some of you, or you guys will volunteer, and we're going to look at your video in live time, and we're going to give critiques on it. And what's particularly special about getting to do that is obviously Rod here from his own perspective, getting to see your video, which is hard to get in front of him, as you can imagine, / as he's already expressed, these coaches all know each other. They don't just come to this camp because, they want to see players. They like Rod. They like the way he puts on the camp. This particular camp, what makes it particularly remarkable for me when I come, and I will be at part of the camp, is the coaches actually are there to recruit you. You will actually get feedback, especially during and after, going, this is where you should do, this is where you can get answers. So you really go, this is a good investment, which I know can be frustrating. So without further ado, let's rock and roll.
Let's rock and roll. So a couple of things. By the way, there have been some very recent Division 1 updates on the men's side specifically. And I'll go over them very quickly. But the reality is, in speaking to a lot of college coaches that I've asked, they don't really know yet what it means in terms of the recruiting, like what it's going to look like, the potential of the 5 years potentially for players and the eligibility clock. I think ultimately that's a good thing. That's going to eliminate 27-year-old, Division 1 soccer players, which is probably ideal in a lot of cases. I also think that if we go on the men's side to Division 1 year-round schedule, that will affect potential recruitment. But the reality is this isn't yet. So coaches don't know, what it's going to look like. So there will be some changes to Division 1 soccer on the men's side in the next couple of years. But the reality is, again, nobody really knows what that looks like. So if anybody tells you they know exactly what that looks like on the recruiting side, they're probably lying, because even all of the coaches that I speak to really often have no idea what it's going to look like. So just wanted to give you that update. If you do hear some things about Division One men's side going full year calendar for games, that is happening for sure. And then the 5-year rule in Division One and probably all divisions is likely to happen, although that's not 100% sure, but it's likely to happen. The transfer portal, which is probably good, tightening the windows a little bit. So that's positive news. So it's not just going to be open, or it's not open all the time. And that will help us as well. So there's a few changes sort of coming through the pipeline in the next couple of years, but we'll have, an updated Zoom probably next year once we kind of see how those things have affected the recruitment cycle. So just looking at the college landscape, right? So about 400 on the men's side, we'll start with about 450,000 high school men's soccer players play each year. About 40,000 potentially go on to play college soccer. Not all of those, of course, are domestic students. So really, you're talking about a small percentage are playing Division One soccer on the men's side. 1 to 2%, as you can see. Division two, similar number. Division three, similar number as well. Although actually it should be a little bit higher. The 1 to 2%, a little bit higher, and 1 to 2% on NAI or junior college. On the women's side, you have about 390,000 players that go, about 37,000 go on to play college soccer. So similar percentages, a few percentage points higher, that are playing Division One soccer on the women's side, because there's just more teams in Division One soccer on the women's side. Division Two, you have a few more teams as well. And Division Three, you have a few more teams as well. So basically, on the women's side, you have a few more college soccer programs and a few less girls players coming up through the ranks. So you have a slightly bigger percentage on the women's side, which is helpful, which is great, which is fantastic, and a lot of opportunities on the women's side, or more opportunities on the women's side, which is fantastic. But it's a long way to say that it's difficult to play college soccer. That's probably what that could boil down to, right? So we want to help give you guys the opportunity to like sort of get into that bottleneck, right? What's the best thing you can do? Obviously, coming to camp is ideal. That's a start, but there's more things to do as well. So that's what the goal is, and that's what the target is. So as I'm looking through the chat as well, so for Coach Zev here, he's asking if anybody wants to just keep an eye on the chat, and he's just asking any questions, because Zev's going to make it interactive, because we want to help you guys again in live time. And he's a recruitment guy. I'm obviously, again, like I said, a head coach. So the more you connect with Zev and show him some things and talk to him, when he's asking about GPAs, club levels, I think it'll be fun as we get a little bit more interactive as well. So again, right? So a couple of these things, Division One and men and women, there's a roster cap of 28. There is now. So that means there's fewer spots in Division One. They used to have about 30 to 35 players. Average roster is about 30 to 31 in Division One. So now it's going to be going to 28. You do have in Division One, of course, is on the men's side, the most scholarship available. You have up to 28 full scholarships. That almost will not happen at most schools in Division One. So I wouldn't necessarily just count on, if you've heard men's soccer has 20 and women's soccer have 28 scholarships. Most schools are not fully funding 28 scholarships. A lot of schools are funding a little bit more than the 9.9, but they're unlikely to be at 28, except for just a small handful of schools. Of course, Division One, generally speaking, is the highest competitive level, and typically there's a large segment of international players. About 30% to 40% are international players in men's Division One soccer right now, and the transfer portal is quite large in terms of coaches picking up transfer students. So again, that pool of domestic young players is a little bit smaller that go into play college soccer. Division Two, you have about 206, about same amount as Division One in terms of players. For the most part, the level is really good in terms of soccer. The difference really Division Two and Division One is some teams just aren't as good, of course, but then there are some Division Two teams that are fantastic. You still have scholarships. It's 9.09 currently. All your travel's regional in Division Two. So if you are going to Cal State LA, for example, you are never going to play a game on the East Coast unless it's in the Final Four. But nothing happens outside of regions in Division Two. So some of you've heard like Cal Berkeley and Stanford now in men's soccer play in the ACC, and they're playing, schools in Florida and North Carolina and things like that. That will never happen in Division Two, like I said, unless it's the Final Four. And then typically In Division two, you're playing for the most part. You're still with scholarships, but the level is going to be a little bit different. Where the top Division two schools are phenomenal, almost in some cases, actually certainly as good as some Division ones. And then you'll get sort of on the bottom end some Division two programs that aren't quite as good, but you do have scholarships available, which is helpful as well. And then in Division three, no athletic scholarships, but a lot of merit scholarships, and a lot of schools have different types of scholarships to work with. So I think a lot of times people just assume they can't do Division three, but the reality is sometimes Division three packages are fantastic and phenomenal just because of the way the school wants to package student athletes. Also, you still have fantastic schools. I would say realistically, the top 30 to 40 Division three teams absolutely can compete with Division one programs. Just to give an example, this spring we played a Division one program and a Division two program, and we tied both games. So you can at least see it that way, that in Division three, the top programs are absolutely unbelievably competitive. And then sort of the bottom end, again, a little bit less competitive, but a more well-rounded experience. And then there's NAIA, which probably a lot of you guys maybe haven't heard of. If you just Google NAIA schools around me, wherever you live, you'll find some on the men's side in this case. And it's sort of a blend of Division two and Division three. And they do have a lot of scholarship money. So if you do want to play college soccer, maybe the school might not be as academic potentially, but do want to play college soccer, look up NAIA and you'll find some really good options around you, just depending on where you live. So that's a little bit of the structure on the boys' side. Women's side is similar. Like I said, more programs on the Division one women's side. So over 300 programs. So that's fantastic, right? Typically, again, in Division one, men's and women's, the focus is on the sport first, school a little second. Depends on the school. There are some programs where the school and the athletic department or athletics in school are really important. And then there's some Division one programs where it's really just about the soccer in this case, and the school is sort of secondary. That's your job to just get an idea when you're doing the recruitment process of what type of school institution that you're going to. But again, for the most part, the highest level for women's soccer in the country in college soccer for sure. Division two, similar to Division one, also a lot of options, also scholarships, also regional travel. Usually, again, like the men's side, those athletic departments tend to be a little smaller. So, for example, Division two institution might have only 10 sports, maybe like five men's and five women's, let's say for an example. Whereas a Division one institution or Division three institution might have 20 sports. They might have 10 men and 10 women's or more. Usually in Division two institution, you have slightly smaller athletic departments. Doesn't mean there's less funding in the Division two program, although usually that's what it means, but it doesn't always mean that. And then Division three, similar to Division on the men's side as well, a lot of schools, no athletic scholarships, phenomenal overall well-rounded experience. And again, like we have, Washington University, St. Louis, and we've had Cal Lutheran in the past who have won NCAA Division three titles, and their teams are phenomenal, and they can compete with a lot of Division one teams and Division two teams for sure. And then NAIA, same thing. A lot of scholarships available, NAIA, and if just look that up. They're four-year schools, and they might be the right fit for you if it's something that you want to prioritize playing soccer. Zeb, I see a lot of things coming through the chat. Is there anything you want to kind of speak to on your chat right now from what you've gotten,
Good
Zeb?
question. Mainly, I was just kind of getting a gauge as you guys are taking in this information of like, Rod, who's our demographic in today's call. And pretty much 95% of everybody has above a 3.7. There are a couple exceptions in there, which obviously, given this camp and Rod example, we are looking at very high academic oriented families, which is fantastic. And for those that maybe have below a 3.7, it does not mean that you can't get your grades up and or you're not high academic. Great test scores and or being good at soccer can help you go to high academic schools. But I wanted to get a gauge. Otherwise, the questions I think can wait. What you're saying is, I think, really key. If there's little small things, I'll address them. But otherwise, and I can save them for you, Rod, at the end to I'll summarize them for you. But mainly saying what's great, and just to recognize this from all the families, we can see here, you guys are high academics. There are both obviously boys and girls, which Rod is about to talk about now. And as Rod goes into it, he can go into more detail. But the main difference between the men and the women is just the time. And you'll see this in a second. Just as a girl, just picture in your head, anything that we say on the boys' side, you just have to do a year earlier. Otherwise, relatively speaking, most things are similar. However, there's a couple other dynamics. But regardless, Rod, I would say for now, nothing needs to be addressed. And this is great for everybody to get to see.
Cool. So like Zeb said, for the most part, the women's side is about a year earlier, right? So let me start on the men's side, and then I'll go back to the women's side so we can make it a little bit easier. On the men's side, if you're a freshman, so we're in summer right now, right? So if you're basically rising freshman or rising sophomore even, you're still a little bit on the early side for the most part, which is kind of nice. Doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing stuff, but for the most part, this is the time if you're sort of that eighth, ninth grade, going into 10th even maybe, is you're doing these camps, which is important. You're on a high level club team, you're emailing coaches, but they can't get back to you till the summer going into your sophomore year anyway, June of sophomore going to junior year, excuse me. And you still need to get on their radar though. But again, on the men's side, because boys physically aren't developing as a 14-year-old, 15-year-old, a lot of coaches are sort of waiting to see, what that young boy turns into as a 15, 16-year-old, generally speaking, among other reasons. There are other reasons for a slightly later recruitment on the men's side, but that's one of the reasons. But if you're a freshman or sophomore, you should absolutely be on the radar of kids. There are coaches that have recruited players that have gone to their camp for like 6 years, So if you've gone to a camp for 6 years, that means you started in like seventh or eighth grade, right? Or sixth grade or something. So it's not impossible to start doing those things on the boys' side, right? So whereas on the women's side, your freshman year, or certainly sophomore year, you are in the thick of it. This is a really important time where you want to be communicating. Well, again, coaches still have restrictions, but where you're seeing them at camps, where you're seeing them where they're seeing you at games, where there's a lot more communication. It doesn't mean you're late or behind if you're a sophomore or freshman and you haven't had contact yet. It just means this is a really important time where you're a little bit more in the thick of it and coaches are starting to find ways to reach out. So I know that I said earlier, they can't really officially contact you till sophomore year or going into your junior year in that summer. However, there's a lot of ways in which you can still touch base with coaches. One, at a camp. So go to a camp and on Friday and Saturday, Sunday, speak to them. And this is when you can ask them all the questions in the world, right? Face to face, use the opportunity to speak to these coaches and connect with them. So camp is one. Another one is when you're on campus. So if you visit campus and you send an email to the coach and it works out where hey, you're going to be on campus, great. You can talk to them. You can ask them all sorts of questions. And then another way that's really helpful is having sort of that in-between person connect for you, right? So let's say, for example, I was your club coach. You could tell me to connect with whatever college coach, and then that college coach can connect to me, and then I can connect to you, and I can sort of be the middle person, right? So we do have ways, if you're in this freshman, sophomore age, to still directly connect to coaches, right? Pretty comfortably, in fact. So those would be the main ways. And of course, by the way, if you just call, let's say, the office of that school and they happen to answer the phone, of course, at that point you can talk. So there are different ways in which you can communicate. But on the women's side, freshman, sophomore year, you certainly want to have coaches knowing who you are. You certainly want coaches going to your games on the women's side. On the boys' side, young men's side, you want coaches just becoming familiar with who you are. You want coaches to just know that you exist, right? That's your target as a freshman and sophomore primarily. Anything, Zeb, you want to add on freshmen, sophomores?
I just want to reiterate one of the things that he mentioned, that Rod mentioned, and I was at this camp a few months back, is you guys are going to get an opportunity to like sit on the bleachers and talk to the coaches. And if that happens, I strongly recommend not only do you have some questions prepped, but try not to ask too many questions in that scenario, like when it's a group setting that are like, what do you think I should improve upon, right? Because or what do you look for in a midfielder? Because that's a very helpful piece of knowledge, but you're going to get individual time for that. When you're in the group setting, if you raise your hand, you need to know questions like, when is your recruiting timeline? When do you like to be done with your class of X? How many videos do you want to see? How many emails do you expect? How many camps should I attend? Those type of recruiting oriented questions are what you're going to want to know the answer to. And if there's 150 people here in this meeting and 10 of you ask questions like that, it's going to serve the rest of the community to get feedback you actually need to know versus even asking a question about the coach, like, where did you play? You can Google that. You don't need that information. You need the information that only the coach can give you at this time. Then, in regards to the timeline, as Rod was saying, I know personally, like my niche of kids are high academic kids. That's like 80% of our students are high academic D3s and Division ones. And I can't tell you how often the coaches go, oh, they're really good, but I already have someone in mind. And like that's a nightmare of an experience versus as Rod is saying, say we'll talk about the boys for a minute. Freshman, sophomore, they're not asking you to be the level as a 14-year-old kid. They're going, oh, they sent me an email. Oh, they came to a camp. Clearly, they must like my school because every kid says they do, but they actually showed up today, or they actually sent me a follow-up email. And then on the girls' side, similar in seventh, eighth grade, or going into ninth, 10th grade, same concept. They're saying to themselves, okay, this person likes us. So really, just so you know, the first few emails, they're going to watch your video for maybe 30 seconds. They're going to go, okay, great. They're not going to say no or yes ever until really your junior year. And and Rod will tell you this too, most of the coaches, and this is trying to be polite, Rod is lovely, but some coaches just will ghost you and you'll never get an answer. But if you have a relationship with the coach, they'll give you an answer. And you'd much rather, I know me personally, my little motto is, why not us, right? The US World Cup, same concept. Why not me? But I just wanted an answer. If UCLA never liked me, I wanted them to say to my face, you're not good enough. Okay, then I'll move on with my life. But never knowing was a nightmare. So this is why we are so happy that many of you are here now because you're here, you can now ask these questions and go, hey, this is who I am today. This is who I am today. Then sophomore year, when you're at a camp and or at a showcase or an ID camp or whatever, and you say, am I on track? They can actually tell you because they actually care about you.
Yeah, for sure. It would be a lot nicer if coaches just said, no, we're not interested. And as much as that's hard to say, for some coaches, most coaches, they don't do that, right? And as much as that's hard to hear as a player and a parent, coaches just don't do that, right? So now, if you ask me as we go through the process, because I want to be transparent with kids and just understand the timeline, I understand the timeline. I would tell a player if I'm not interested in them because um, I understand all the things you need to do. But I am just going to say that is going to be one frustrating part that you will get from college coaches, or won't get, I guess, is you won't get that no. You'll just get the no answer, the sort of non-committal answer in a lot of cases, and that becomes a little bit of a challenge. And we'll talk a little bit about how potentially you can sort of try to get to that answer. Anyway, junior, senior. So on the men's side, boys' side, if you're a junior or even a senior, right, like going into your senior year, and even I would say first half of senior year, and gosh, even into like the spring of your senior year, there's still a lot of recruiting that happens on the men's side. That's a lot less on the women's side. If you're a young girl, if you're a going into your senior year on the women's side, girls' side, right, we're getting closer to the end of that opportunity zone. Doesn't mean it's impossible. It doesn't mean recruits don't get recruited on the women's side going into your senior year. Of course they do. But certainly we're a little bit closer to where if Division One institutions haven't started to say, hey, look, we want you, I think it's time. If you're a woman going into your sort of middle of your senior year by then, I think you really have to circle back into the Division threes and the NAIAs and the Division two programs. Because I think that's one thing that I see a lot, that there's a lot of Division two, Division three NAIA programs that are interested in student athletes, and that student athletes saying, no, Division one's coming, and then I hear that 6 months later, Division one didn't come for that player, but then now that player has no options, right? So just keep in mind. So on the boys side, you have earlier, excuse me, you're later, right? So the boys side can probably extend it all the way past the winter of your senior year, spring even, and I still think there's a lot of opportunities sometimes in the spring of senior year. On the women's side, it's far less. So I would just say, I think you should continue to communicate with coaches as often as possible when they reach out to you. And if there is a Division three institution or NAIA institution that says they're interested in you, but you're not interested in them, you can be honest with them, but you want to say, I'm open to hearing from you again if I don't have other offers, some version of that. You can decide the wording, right? To come circle back by, let's say January. That's usually about when most um, in terms of admission deadlines sort of are for Division three institutions, sort of January. So if a Division three institution still wants to have you, even though you kind of said no to them, they might have through January of your senior year to still say yes, we'll take you if they want, if the coach is, still wants to at that point. Sometimes Division 3 institutions are like, or NAIA or Division 2 institutions are kind of like, we don't want you anymore. That's possible. But my biggest suggestion is even if Division 3 and Division 2 institutions and NAIA are talking to you, but you want Division 1, you still want to make sure that you have until about January of your senior year as an option for those schools. So please don't just say no, and also don't ghost them, right? Make sure you stay in touch with them. So on the women's side, junior year is hugely important. Coaches need to know your name. Coaches need to connect with you. That's how you know if they're interested in you. If a coach is saying, I want to see your game, if a coach is emailing you, a coach is contacting you, they're interested. That at that point, you're junior. On the boys' side, maybe, maybe not. They might still be looking at other options. But on the girls' side, definitively. So if you're trying to say, I want to go to Stanford, but Stanford doesn't respond to you, it's reasonable to say you should start looking at other options. And that's how coaches tell you they're interested or not. If they are proactive with you, if a coach reaches out to you out of nowhere and just says, Hey, I want to go to your game. How's an update? What are you doing? What blah 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 blah? They're interested, right? Just like dating, like, right, those things. It's the same concept, if they really don't reach out and they're not really proactive and they're not really trying to get any information from you, they're just not as interested. So just understand that. And I'm talking junior year girls side. I'm talking senior year boy side. Freshman year, sophomore years, they really can't do that much, but I'm just talking about how you can kind of get a gauge of their interest levels. So what your objective is for 4 touch points, right? So 4 touch points every single year. So one, a highlight video. You want coaches to see your highlight video. More than one, by the way, but you should be updating. And this is one of the areas in which Zev specializes in video stuff. And I'll let him kind of talk about the project that we'll do, the program that we'll do next, later at the end of today's Zoom. But you want coaches to get a new updated highlight video from you at least once a year. By the way, it should be 10 times a year maybe, and we'll talk about the timeline of it. But at least minimum, a school seeing a new highlight video. And again, this is a minimum. One is just too far below. There should be at a minimum 3, 4, 5, 6. And again, Zev can speak to that in a little bit. Every single year for the coaches you're interested in. The second thing is they should see you in your environment. That means you in your club, and that means you in your high school if you play high school. If you play high school, one in your club, one in your high school. If you don't play high school, and you just play like MLS Next, for example, then at least twice, right? It are the touch points in which they're seeing you live. That's how you can gauge their interest. So if they've done those things, they've seen you at least in your environment twice, then this is interest. Another part is camps, right? You may not be able to go to 3 camps, but if there's ability to go to 1 camp a year at least where they see you live so they can work with you, this would be ideal. So that means probably you're picking at least 3 camps in a year at minimum, hopefully more. But if three is what you have, three is what you have. If one is what you have, one is what you have. The reality is you just want coaches to be able to work with you in a camp. And then, of course, you want plenty of recommendations. It doesn't have to be 4. It's just sort of an order there. But you want a coach to speak on your behalf, right? So again, I'm your club coach. Have me speak to that college coach for you. Every year, just be like, hey, so-and-so, Bobby, Sally, whoever, they're doing great. And I just want you to know, coach, that they're really interested in your school, blah, 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 blah. They train hard. They're the hardest workers in practice. They're leaders on my team, and you really got to look at this player. And that happens a lot, where me, the club coach, talks to the college coach, and we're really sort of so happy to recommend you that because we do that, then it helps you in the recruitment process. So make sure your coach is a big fan of yours. If your coach is a big fan of yours, that's going to help tenfold to get recruited because then your coach becomes sort of your de facto agent. And if the college coach trusts your club coach, that's about as good as it gets. That's almost right in through the door, to be honest. So make sure you're a hard worker. Make sure that you're training hard. Make sure that your coach wants to vouch for you. Zev, anything? We will talk about videos, Zev, so you don't have to go into depth yet, but anything you want to add on those?
Just I hope you guys just I can echo only what he said, which is like one video is not enough video. And also you need a reason to email people. So like I know a lot of you are like, well, I had a conversation with Rod and I don't know what to do. Send another video. Every touch videos are really key for that. We'll go into that later, but that's it.
For sure. One question that I see here from Michael Olson. What about a website which encompasses video and other information about the players instead of just a video? I will get to that and I'll definitely address that. But you should definitely have one place. This is for everybody. You should have one place where everything is, where a coach can get a link and boom, there's your video, there's your academic stuff, there's your everything, you know? So you definitely want to have one place that you can send coaches to that is sort of your hub for stuff, for sure. We'll talk those details as well. Some communication reminders, again, juniors and seniors to kind of finish that other piece. Juniors and seniors, there's no limitations. Um, you should be emailing coaches all the time, right? To go to their camps. Sophomores, freshmen, you can still email coaches. You can still call coaches. They just can't call you back specifically about their programs. They can't email you back specifically about programs. But we did talk about the turnaround, the workaround. Have a coach vouch on your behalf or speak to you sort of as an intermediary. Go to camps in which you can talk to them and go to campus in which you can talk to them. So you do have ways for sophomores and freshmen, but you want to be on a top level club team by the time you're in your freshman year of high school. That's getting looks at from college coaches. If you can't because of whatever reason, then camps have to become a bigger part of what you do ultimately. But the reality is you do have ways to communicate to coaches. And like I said, what if you never hear anything back? Everybody's process is different, but that is a gauge of interest, right? So if you're emailing coaches and they're not really responding, if you're calling coaches and not really responding, that specific coach or those specific coaches, they're just not as interested in you. It doesn't mean you should stop emailing them or calling them. It just means that they're not as interested in you. So use that as a gauge. So, okay, I've been emailing this coach and I don't get responses. I can still email them, but I have to sort of move them lower to my list because I have to be able to understand that I need to have options as well because it's going to get a little harder for the recruiting process. So if I just keep throwing out emails and throwing out phone calls to somebody that doesn't respond and I spend all my time there, then the reality is it's going to be time wasted potentially that maybe there's other schools on your list, and we'll talk about your list, that you really should be recruiting yourself. But stay persistent. And again, I just want to reiterate how important it is to have a coach, be a coach or somebody who knows, maybe they're not directly your coach, but maybe somebody who knows you directly and like the college coaches trust, that can be your basically your best agent in that respect. So that was all general stuff. So now let's get specific. So one, you have to. So one, please, like you have to create your own list. You have to create a list and you have to hunt those schools. So anybody that school that randomly reaches out to you, great, respond to them. But you also shouldn't be emailing 1,000 schools, you know? The reality is, and this is kind of a pretty good general rule of thumb that I like, is it kind of helps you sort of stay sane, is have one school per month before graduation as your target list, right? So right now, for example, seniors or rising seniors, you're 12 months about from graduating, you know, from graduating high school. So your list should be about 12, you know, so about 10 to 15, right? Let's call it that. 10 to 15 people. Sorry, I guess I got to update this slide since this was for the winter, but that you should have current juniors, rising seniors, you should have about 12, right? So we'll call it 10 to 15 schools. If you're a current rising junior, right, you're 24 months from graduation, 20 to 25, maybe 30 schools, somewhere in there. 36 schools if you're a rising sophomore. So 35 to 40 schools, that's kind of on your list, right? And then more if you're younger. And the reason I say you want to have a list like that, because you don't want to spend time emailing a million schools. And if you email too many, then you can't give good emails and good phone calls and you can't do a good job of recruiting yourself, right? So let's make sure we're all making our list. So now let's kind of go over how do you make your list. One first part, I think, has to be academics. That what's the academic level of the school? Because if you're a 4.0 student, I'll just use my example actually. I was a good student, but I wanted to play Division One soccer. I had some good Division One offers, some good Division Three offers. I chose a Division One institution that wasn't as academic, you know, but I had a great time. And honestly, I wouldn't trade my experience. You know, I played at a high level. I wouldn't trade it at all. I met my wife. You know, we have children. A happy life is amazing. The only one thing I think about though is what if I would have went to more academic school? You know, I wouldn't have traded it, but like I think about that, like what if I would have gone to more academic school? Would that have sort of changed some trajectories or not? Like I said, I wouldn't change anything. So That's probably not a real question that I have, but the reality is it is something that I think about only, could I have gone to a more academic institution because you want to be around a better peer set at times, right? So that's one thing. You want to make sure the academics fits you. Don't just choose or settle for a low level academic school just because it's Division One maybe or Division Two, when maybe you can have a better experience overall socially if you pick a more academic school. Two, geography. Where, like if you can decide, say, I want to stay on the West Coast. I want to go to the East Coast. I want to be in the Midwest, or none of that matters, that's fine, but you want to identify that as well. A third thing is you want to know the size of the school, right? So small school, big school, medium-sized school. So let's say, for example, you live in Los Angeles. You don't have to choose these schools specifically, but you can go visit Occidental. It's about 2,200 students. You can go visit Loyola Marymount. It's like 8,000, 9,000 students. It's a medium-sized school. You can go visit UCLA, and that's 40,000 kids in one. Well, you probably can't do one day because of traffic, but within reason, you could probably visit those schools in a couple days on a weekend. And then you can get an idea, maybe not a weekend, maybe if you can go during the week, but then you can get an idea of what's the school like, right? So do I like medium-sized schools? Do I like big schools? Do I like small schools? And the reason that's important, because let's just use one, two, three. If you say, I want to go to a high academic school on the West Coast, that's small. You got five schools. That's it. The list is that small, There's not that many. If you say high academic, West Coast, big, you only have like five or six as well, Stanford, UCLA, depends on what you put, UC's, the UC schools, and then you have about that. And so just kind of using like those three lists, those three parts of your list, you can really be pretty narrow. Now, if you're kind of medium academic, you don't really care where you want to go, East Coast, West Coast, you don't really care about the size, obviously you have to do more funneling, and so just make sure you think about that. The finances, that's real, right? Cost, right? So you can start doing, there's almost every school has a net price calculator, but you can have those conversations. We'll talk about those things as well. You got to get your level, your honest feedback. This goes to, we're doing our evaluations. You're all going to have one evaluation from a coach, even if you're a one-day camper. Ask the coach, where do they think you are level-wise? One thing I will say about that level thing though is it's not, let's put it this way, I guess it's not completely objective, right? And so it's just about the fit and the feel, right? So there's players that have played Division One soccer that I didn't think were great players that I wouldn't have taken. And then, I've seen like just a lot of top players in Division Three, for example. So it's not always objective, like just Division One's the best and Division Three is third best and Division Two is second best. It's not that really. But I just want you to consider, what your level is, maybe consider asking questions to college coaches and not just sort of blindly believing you're a Division One soccer player without that confirmation from college coaches. But I also don't think anybody should ever put limits on you. So, take it for what it is. I mean, even if somebody says, "Oh, I think you should play Division Three," I think you can still believe you want to play Division One. But we're just saying, kind of have your don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? So have your list that you're emailing. Then, picking the lifestyle, you may be a quote unquote Division One player, but you want to have a little bit more well-balanced lifestyle, right? That's real. In Division Three, you can have full-time internship, you can travel or a internship, you can travel abroad, you have more time in the spring because you have shorter season. So maybe you just want that, even though you're again, quote unquote, Division One soccer player, you still want to have a little bit more well-balanced time in college, right? And that's what Division Three falls in. Then you're talking about soccer program and playing time. So really 1 through 6, you make your list. Okay, I want a high academic school. I'm not sure about location. Okay, fair enough. Size of school, I'm okay with any. Okay, fair enough. Finances, that's real. Where does it fit for my family? My level, I'm in that middle ground, or maybe I'm not quite a Division One athlete. So maybe I should focus on Division Three or Division Two or NAIA. I actually kind of want a more well-balanced experience. That's a Division Three experience. Division Two and Division One, it's a little bit more sport facing. Division Three, it's a little bit more equal, where they're kind of the student and the athlete are much more connected. Then once you have those things, then you can start plugging in specific programs, right? So again, if you use all six of those things, academics, location, finances, size of school, level, and division, you'll filter down a lot, I guess, just from there. And then now you plug in the soccer programs. Okay, is this a place that I want to look at, right? You know, coaches and all those things. And then can I play there? But that one's last because the coach could leave. It depends, right? You have to look into how long has the coach been there. If the coach has been there for 15 years, probably they'll be there, you know, for a while, but you never know. If it's been coach turnaround, you know, there's some issue there as well. So you do want to consider that if it's a new coach or the coach that's been there for a while. So use this to make your list. Then once you have this, now you have your 10 to 15, 20 to 25, and you're emailing and hunting those schools. That's what you're doing. If anybody else randomly comes along, fine. But this is what you're doing. You're sending them your highlight videos. You're sending them your camp, or well, when you're going to the camps, you're telling them you're going to camps where they're at. You're sending them your club and high school schedules, and you're just in contact with those. That way, you don't feel overwhelmed because sometimes people don't know what to do and they feel overwhelmed. Zev, anything you want to add on that?
Only that, as he was been saying, I won't go too much more like the follow-up process, and the coaches never really get bothered if you continue with a message. Like as long as you're very polite, they get a lot of emails. Their emails are not organized, and we want to make sure they are organized. Not they manually have to organize their emails, but my point is they get a lot of them. So because of that, it's okay to follow up and go for it and just always be very nice.
So a question that I'm just kind of looking at as I'm going through this chat as well. So are you supposed to email coaches outside your list? And on mass emails, and that's a really good question. Oh my gosh, it's an amazing question. You can email coaches outside of your list. Absolutely, right? You should have sort of a wish list as well. It's just if you're emailing too many coaches, it gets overwhelming. The second part, this is critical. So make sure you're honing on this. It says mass emails there. You should never email more than one college program in one email. Never. I want to say like never, never. Like there's things you shouldn't do, you know? Like that's a never. So you shouldn't put, you know, Occidental and UC Irvine and UCLA and who else on the same email. No chance. Don't do that, please. So you have to write a personal email to Occidental. You can, and by the way, you should include everybody on staff because you don't know who actually does the recruiting. So don't just assume the head coach is all you send the email to because the reality is in most programs, the head coach doesn't do the recruiting. The head coach just does the final part. It depends on the institution and the coach, obviously. But the reality is it's the assistants that do most of the recruitment. And then if you're looking at Division One institutions where they have two or three assistants, there's very clearly one recruiting coordinator, and then there's another person on staff who does like logistics and practice, you know, whatever. And then there's a head coach that does whatever he or she wants, you know, but they're not doing the recruiting. So the reality is send one email to everybody on staff. Hey, Coach LaFerrari and staff. And then you go on the website and you find everybody at Occidental. That's it. Then you write a specific, we'll talk about the template stuff. So that's why it's exhausting if you're writing 1,000 emails. So to Jennifer's question, you know, should you be, sorry, it's my wife there. Hope she's okay. Um, should you be talking to people outside your email list? You can, but to send 25 emails if you're a sophomore, junior that are independent, that's a lot, you know, that are focused on the school. It's a lot already. So I wouldn't be going out too much of that. But please, 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 just one email per program and get the names right. You know, make sure that even if you're using a template, which we'll talk about, you're not just like you're not getting it wrong, you know, that you're not saying somebody else's name when you're emailing me, for example. All right. When you're doing videos, and actually I'm going to come to this, well, I guess I'll go to one. You do want to have video stuff. I'll let Zeb talk about this a little bit because it's sort of his wheelhouse for a few minutes here. But just my piece is your video needs to be spot on and it needs to be, you have to make that count. A coach, just speaking from a coach's perspective, we're going to watch the first scene of the video. If we like the first scene, the first clip, then we'll watch the second clip. If we don't like the first clip, we're not watching it. So you have to understand that. I think sometimes people think it's like a crescendo of like, I'll make the best thing at the end, and the coach is going to leave with that feeling of amazingness, and the coach will never see that. So let's just to use an example. Let's say you use 5 clips. The very best thing you've ever done in soccer in your life in the last 6 months should be number one. And then the second best thing you've ever done in your life should be number two, right? And it's that simple. So just make sure that you are having the ability to make sure that your best stuff is first. And then we'll talk like all those details. But you want to use halos, arrows, make sure it's zoomed in enough, only your best stuff. One of your videos can only be 3 minutes, 2 minutes. That's more than enough. If we want to see more, we'll see more, and Zeb will talk details on that. So Zeb, go ahead. You can discuss details a little bit for a few minutes here, but we still have more to cover, so don't go
Yeah,
too
yeah, I won't go too long. Mainly just to say when it comes to videos is he already put it really well. Highlight videos, and every coach will have their own opinion. I've had coaches tell us like, "Hey, we only want your position. So if you're a defender and it's a highlight video, I want to see your tackles." So be it. If it's me, and I think Rod might agree with me as well, if you're a defender, I don't really need to see you clear the ball off the line. To me, I'm like, I expect you to do that. It's your job. I need to see you play out of the back. But then in third or fourth clip, I would love to see you defend, obviously. So highlight videos are meant to be highlights. And I know a lot of you are like, I don't know what to put in my video. Look, if you think it's phenomenal, odds are it's phenomenal. It's not that hard to make a highlight video. If it's great, it's great. What becomes more complicated, and it's not even, it's not rocket science, but more complicated is the after the highlight video, which is really what Rod is talking about in terms of my expertise. And the term I kind of coined was I was a defensive center mid and I just didn't have that many highlights. So I knew that if a coach could watch a whole game of me and only look at me, which they're never going to do because it's too long, that they'd really like me. But that's not realistic. So instead, we do what are called these every touch videos. So it's every touch you took during the game, especially if you're a defender or a defensive center mid, a winger and a striker. You guys should have goals and assists. But for the rest of us, we're not going to have those moments. But you should change the order of your every touch video. So the best moments are first, because again, they still aren't going to watch it unless they really like you or they see good moments. And then you can follow up with that quite often. And then after 3 or 4 every touch videos, you can make a brand new highlight video. My biggest pet peeve is people are listening to the coaches say, I want to update a video, and they interpret that as the exact same video with a new clip. And they do not want that. They've already seen the clips. They have very good memories. They won't remember a name, but they'll see a clip from 30 years ago. Yep. And go, I remember that person. So for that reason, I want new video if you make a highlight video, not the same old, and then every touch videos. And then we'll show you examples in a minute.
Okay. Oh, wow, you went through that all right. Uh, Good job. Okay. All right. How often, generally speaking, right? Communication. People ask that all the time, kind of like, hey, how often should I communicate? My general rule of thumb is when you have a significant update. You should be creating significant updates. You've won a major tournament, you've won a major award, you've been selected to participate in something significant. You're heading to a big showcase, you're going to their camp, you're playing near their campus or going to campus, things like that. That's when you should communicate. So then somebody, the normal question is like, well, what if I don't have any of those things? Then my argument be maybe then you might not be the level to play college soccer, right? Because if you think about it, if you're not playing in major tournaments or major showcases, if you're not winning awards of sorts, if you're not doing anything significant, if you're not going to camps, if you're not going to their campus, if you're not going to showcases, it's going to be really hard to get recruited. So you're just making it harder on yourself, right? So you should sort of organically have those things, right? So when a player just sort of reaches out to me like, hey, coach, I'm just checking in, that's okay. But I think within reason, a coach or a player should be having these things, right? You should be playing somewhere where there's enough showcases. You should be playing somewhere where maybe you're close to their campus. You should be playing somewhere where you're going to their camp. You should be getting selected for stuff, noticed for stuff, especially if you're playing high school soccer. Those things really should happen. Obviously, club side doesn't really have it as much in terms of awards and things like that, but you should be emailing them every time you have one of those things. And then even if it's just, I have a new updated highlight video, that's great too. So that would be my answer to anybody who maybe doesn't have those things because maybe geographically you don't live in a place where those things happen a lot. Is then your video should be updated consistently, and that's when you'd be sending those updated. Look at these next 5 goals that I've scored, or whatever the scenario is. My thing with videos is it's simple in this respect. The best things you do that are most impactful. So if you're a forward, it should be pretty much 5 goals, 8 goals, 10 goals, whatever. I don't need the passing and things, like I need forwards who score goals. Like I can find the connecting pieces, right? If you're a center midfielder, it depends on which center midfielder you are, type. I mean, right? If you're like a 10, that should be goals and assists. If you're an 8, it should be something like a box to box run, powerful running through the lines, just something where you've disrupted a play at the top of your box, you ran through the line, into the other box, as opposed to passing left to right, left to here. It's like, again, we can find those players. Those things are important, but like we want to see those things that are impactful. If you're six, like a different type of midfielder, like destroying play, just winning a great tackle and then distributing, again, not just distributing, right? If you're center back up in the air, winning a ball, tracking, maybe not necessarily tracking somebody down. I see a lot of center back films where the player is like chasing a player down, which is fine because you want to showcase your speed, I'm guessing. But to me, that also showcases generally your lack of positioning or awareness. Probably you're in a bad position. So this is why you need to sprint back. Obviously, it's not always the case. Sometimes the team just plays a long ball or something, but to keep that in mind. Outside back, up and down the line, hitting crosses, 1v1 defending. That's it. Simple, like just impactful stuff, right? Goalkeeper, save, big time save. Distribution, yes, is important, but you can just do one or two distribution pieces. They play to your feet, you play it out under pressure, great, that's enough. Okay, this guy's technical enough. Maybe this type of throw or long distribution. Okay, that's it. Two distributions, that's it. I don't need more than that. I need to see you making saves. I need to see you organize, right? So very specifically for your position, those are the things you're looking for. Forward, goals. Attacking midfielder, goals and assists. 8, running through lines. 6, winning balls, playing. Outside backs, 1v1 defending and crosses. And center backs, winning balls. Really scoring goals on set pieces, as like a corner kick. And then defending, hard, right? And then goalkeeper saves. So that's what your video should be focused on. That's it. Don't do more. Because more is waste. What coaches want, right? We want genuine emails. Like your social media needs to be cleaned up. It has to be cleaned up. People check that. It's crazy to think that you might have some silly stuff. Firstly, I don't think you should be recording you doing ridiculous stuff, right? But then you shouldn't be recording and posting you doing ridiculous stuff. So just make sure you're aware of that. If you're gonna do ridiculous stuff, don't post it. Don't record it, please. But then make sure you understand your social media's got to be cleaned up. Don't do knucklehead things, right? You do want to go to camps, as many as you can within reason, of course. You do want to be at showcases. You want to have academics. Above 3.5 really helps you a lot, right? As we go through this all as well. The next part, with your list, you're attending their camps. You're inviting them with your list. You're inviting them to your showcases. You're having your coach contact them, right? Because again, if I'm your club coach, and you're like, hey, coach, can you contact 135 schools for me? I'm like, no, but I'll contact 5 for you, 3 for you, maybe, but not 25. So, you have to filter your own list as you go through, right? And then you want to have all your information in one place so it's organized and accessible. And I'll show you that as we progress. So here's like a template email, right? One that you can just have. And then this is like the first email, right? Just a super easy template. Dear coach, last name and staff or last name, whatever. Make sure you get it right. There's a lot of times because you're using a template that you don't change the head coach's name, right? And then you send it to the wrong school. So just make sure you double check. Like you're sending it to me and my staff that it's sending to Occidental. You're not putting my name and my staff and then sending it to UCLA, right? You got to make sure you do that right. Then find something on their website. My name is whatever, and a researcher program. I want to congratulate you on whatever, right? That's easy to find, right? If they've had a great year, on their great year, on their championships, on their person getting drafted, if it's on the men's Division One side or women's Division One side, if it's a scholar athlete, if it's whatever, there's something on their website. Even if they went 3-16, on your successful win to end the season against so and so, whatever, something, right? That makes them shows that you went on their website. Then specific, I wanted to contact you because of my whatever, pace and ability to beat defenders, 1v1, whatever, would benefit your program. I'm number this, I play for this birth year or age group now, it's going to change. Name, whatever level you play at, and my coach recommendation, right? So what that actually would look like. I wanted to connect with you because my pace and ability to beat 1v1 defenders would benefit your program. I'm number 7. I play on the U17 GA LA Surf, MLS Next LA Surf for Coach Rod, who would be happy to provide a recommendation for you. Coach Rod, if you want to add, is also a college coach and blah, blah, blah. If that's not the case, fine. I attend this high school. I currently have GPA of this. And another thing about you, right? In addition to I'm a forward who scores a lot of goals, whatever. And if you have any accolades, great. You can view my profile, academic information here. Nice clean link to wherever they can see everything, right? Or your videos, actually your video. And then say what you're doing. I'll be playing at this showcase at this camp. I'll be this number, blah, blah, blah. Look forward to seeing you there. Are you attending? If not, what events are you planning on attending over the next few months? And it's good to ask them some questions because then you'll get a response. I'll give you an example. If a coach just gives you a generic response, if you're junior or senior, they're not that interested because they would then tell you, hey, we're going to this event. I can't wait to see you, whatever. If they don't really give you a response, they're not as interested. And then thanks for your time, your name, class year, birth year, whatever, phone number, and then your online profile with everything. Boom, your YouTube link with all your YouTube channel with all your stuff. So that's like a template email you can use for the first time, right? You can't keep sending that same email, but you can modify it. So just again, I'll send this deck out, right? So you guys can have it. But that's just a simple one. It doesn't have to be crazy, just modify that to your specifics. During and after your in-person talks, right? Look at the coach, know about their roster, know about their school. This is when you're now speaking to a coach. Not necessarily at a camp, because you'd have to do a lot of research on that unless there's one or two coaches that you're specifically interested in. But when you do get to speak to a coach, in person or on the phone, know about their roster, know about who they play, know about their program. Coaches love hearing kids that know about their program. Wow, this kid knows about the rivalry we have with this school. Wow, that's cool. They're super interested, If we're interested in you already, that just knocks it out of the park. So do that, If your parents are there, don't let them lead the conversation. So obviously, most most of the time. I would say, conversations are not with parent and player, but sometimes they are. So if they are parent and player, so this is really, now I'm talking to parents. If you know you're going to have a meeting with the coach and you guys are going to be present, parents with your kid, the night before or whatever, get like a notebook, give your son or daughter the notebook. You guys put a whole bunch of questions in. So as parents, right, you put all the questions, in that you want, and then give your son the notebook, right? So then your son or daughter can just say, hey, coach, and they open the notebook and they have some questions. And then all the questions look like they're coming from the kid. No coach is ever going to be like, no, you have to remember all your questions. I'm not going to let you use a notebook, like no way. Actually, I think most coaches would prefer you to have something prepared because it looks like it's important to you, right? And then as a player, you can decide if you want to ask a question that mom wanted you to ask. You don't have to ask it, right? But at least it was in the notebook. So mom or dad feel like the question's there. And then as the player, you can decide if that question's appropriate given how the conversation's going. And so at least player, you still have some autonomy in this, right? I think don't fight your parents on that night before about all the questions in there, right? Because you still ultimately have all the authority because you can decide if you want to ask that question anyway. But at least it's something that you guys can work together to prepare when you have these conversations. And ask them, send a thank you note. I mean, after, excuse me, after, send a thank you note. Send something that says, hey, look, you know what? Coach, that was a great meeting. I mentioned I want to know the next steps if you didn't already ask those in your meeting. Here's some questions. Generally, you ready? These easy. Just some questions to ask, some questions not to ask. Typical day look like for a player. And this is again in an individual meeting, not necessarily at camp because that the camp is more about your evaluation. This is like after you've connected with a coach, you set up a phone call with a coach. You're on campus, things like that. That's what I'm talking about with this meeting. So what does a typical day look like for a player in season? How does your team balance academics, travel, soccer, all this stuff? What role do first years typically play? This one that I like, it's highlighted in yellow for a reason, is where do you see me fitting into your program? Because now they have to give you specifics, right? If the specifics are kind of all over the place, then you'll know the coach isn't that interested in you, right? So for example, if Zev is a player I'm recruiting, and Zev's like, hey, coach, how do you see me fitting into your program? And I'm like, you look like whatever, right? You can tell, well, we like players that are really tall, with all due respect, because Ev's not that tall. So, I'd be like, okay, well, the coach doesn't really know who the heck I am. Whereas if I'm like, we need a creative midfielder that can play in between the lines, left-footed players. We need to have that centrally. It's just because it gives us a good balance. with creative abilities to beat players 1v1 out of the middle to unbalanced opponents. Well, now Zev's like, okay, that's me. That's what I'm talking about. So, you'd be able to kind of find that, right? And so understand that the coach knows who you are. Right. So there's some questions that you can ask. And then obviously don't just right out of the bat ask about scholarship money, how quickly you can get starting lineup, who else you're recruiting. Don't worry about that. Not in the early process. Make sure you know if the school has that major, right? Because if you want to be an engineering major, but that school doesn't have engineering, then that's important to know, right? Don't be mean. Don't ask mean questions, I guess, as well. Why did you guys not do very well last year? You got to find a way how to manage that question as well. Campus visits, get on campus, what you're going for. You want the coaches to bring you on campus. You want the coaches to say, hey, I want you to come on campus. I want you to meet our team. This would be great. This is gold. This is outstanding. Love it. Coach is super interested, right? You also want to go watch their games if it's within your region. You can also watch games on TV. Actually, almost all programs televise their games online now, so you can see them, whether it's Division One on ESPN Plus or other stuff, or Division Three has like Flow Sports and other places. So you have plenty of places. You can watch all games. Like there's no excuse not to watch games. Build your smaller target list. Make sure you reach out and start early and follow through, right? It says we're almost here. We have a couple more. Common mistakes families make, thinking it's only Division One or bust. Like I said, you want to keep Division Two, Division Three, NAIA schools. You want to be transparent, but you want to keep them alive, I suppose, just in case it happens where you don't get the Division One offer you want. Having said that, if you definitely know you would never attend that school under any circumstance, like if I have no scholarship offers, if I have no other offers, I still won't go to that school, then that's when I think you can tell that coach, thank you, coach, the school profile just doesn't fit me, whatever, right? Whatever you want to say. Another one is analysis paralysis, right? Not knowing what to do. Well, hopefully we've spent the last hour telling you what you need to do. So hopefully that will be helpful for you. You need to make the target list. We talked about that. You need to register with NCAA Clearinghouse for Division One or Division Two. So if you want to play Division One or Division Two, go on the NCAA website. You can go on the ncaa.org now and register with the NCAA Clearinghouse. Just Google NCAA Clearinghouse if you want. And just register as your junior or senior. Going into your really senior year, like now is fine if you're going into your senior year. And register for the clearinghouse. So you have to be registered. It's about $100. You have to be registered with NCAA to have your grades in there to make sure you're eligible. So that's mandatory for Division One or Division Two. So just do that early, get it out of the way. A coach is going to ask for your clearinghouse number because a coach can go into the NCAA clearinghouse and see, okay, this person is academically eligible for NCAA soccer. So great. So you just want to, it's like a check mark thing, check box thing that you need to do. And then you got to attend camps because coaches need to see you. But like I said, it says on our website, it's about 80% of kids who play college soccer went to camp. So you should go to camps, and be part of that. So as we're kind of wrapping up, best practices for college soccer and recruitment. Know the odds and increase them in your favor. So that means it's 1 to 2% per division. But if I look at all four, and I say four meaning NAIA, if Division One, Division Two, Division Three, if I look at all four, that gives me 8 to 10%, right? This is higher as opposed to just Division One, which is 1 to 2%. Create your list so you're not just throwing emails into the wind, and so you can give more specific emails. Invest time or money in an excellent highlight film. An unbelievable highlight film opens a lot of doors. So please invest time or money or both into an excellent video. Prepare personalized emails for each school. Please, 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 please. Individual, not mass. Continue to go to camps and tournaments, showcase your abilities, be a better student. Nobody's ever lost anything because they were a better student. So make sure you're a better student. You might even get more money because you're a better student. Leverage a coach, who knows you, please. And remember those 4 touch points every year: camps, environment, them seeing in your environment, coach recommendations, and videos. You have to remember that, like, all these things help you in addition to, oh, by the way, you have to be good enough, So the footballing, your feet have to do the talking, right? So you can do all these things, but if you're not a good soccer player, it's going to be difficult, right? So just make sure you're a good footballer. So in addition to all this stuff, you got to be a good soccer player, So make sure, and you got to be playing. So make sure you're getting fit, you're sleeping well, you're eating well. Don't eat junk food, as much as you can avoid it. Eat real food so you're stronger, so you're healthier. The best ability is availability. So if you're always injured, that's a bad thing. It doesn't help us, right? So sleep a lot, drink a lot of water, don't waste time on your phone and scrolling and just go to bed, so you're strong, so you're healthy. That matters. So you can be a good soccer player, right? Because you can write all emails you want, but if you're not on the field when the coach needs you to be on the field, you're not helping. And that matters. Um, some frequently asked questions before we get to our camps. Are all camps good, bad, not worth it? Honestly, some are great, some are horrible. Like, just it's that easy. Some camps really are helpful, and like for the, obviously it's our camp, we're running it, but like I want to give as much value as possible. I want to help as much as possible. Not every camp is that way, if I'm being honest with you. Won't throw other camps under the bus. But if a camp just kind of puts it together, puts kids on teams and they just play, and there's not really a lot of information given prior or organization during or really even evals, it's hard to say that that camp was giving you the value that you deserve. Like players need to have feedback, or else it's just, what are we doing? If I went to camp but I don't hear anything during camp from the coaches, then it's not necessarily helpful, right? So that's why we have the evals. So now every single one of you players will walk out with at least an interview, with at least one interview's the wrong evaluation, and sort of a discussion with a coach on a one-on-one at the end of camp, right? So utilize that time. For us, we're giving you your 11v11 film, obviously the Zoom as well. So, and you'll do small group conversations during the camp. It's during one of the days. So if you're a one-day camper, you might not get the group conversation. Depends on which day you attend. And then do coaches recruit from camps? Of course. Like every coach wants to win. And I think there's a lot of things about like coaches, only go to camp for this, and like the reality is coaches, all college coaches, want to win. That's it. There's nothing else. So if they see a player that's going to help their program, they're going to recruit that kid, and or if they're not the head coach, tell that coach. There's no reason that a player or a coach would not see a good player that they think can help their team and they wouldn't recruit that player, right? So they do want to help. They do want to win, right? So that's important. And I just want you guys to have those understandings. So we're going to open this up now. Zev, I want to open this section up to you to make this interactive and kind of go from here.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
And you guys, by the way, so I'm sorry, Zev. And you guys can, while Zev's taking over this, I'll take over the chats, and I'll start answering your questions on the chat. Sorry, go ahead.
yes, brilliant. I've got a few submissions of videos, so I'm just going to share my screen and we're going to go through the videos together. So that'll be really fun. I don't have any girls yet who have submitted their videos. So if you're a girl in the Zoom chat, we'd like to look at yours too. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to go through them. If I cannot get through all of them, which is likely, you'll have a chance to send them to me directly, and I will still be able to look at them on my Instagram, and I'll be able to talk to you if you'd like to do that later. So don't feel too stressed if your video doesn't get looked at, but a couple people submitted them first, so we're going to look at those first. Okay, so the first one is a gentleman named JP. JP, if you could do us a favor, if you could unmute yourself, if you're open to that, and so we could talk to you. The other reason I say that is if you want to be recruited by Rod, he's about to watch your video. So, and just in general, he's a college coach, so it'd be great for him to see your video, I think, in every capacity. So here is sorry, where's Mr. JP? All right, JP, your video disappeared. I think when I copied and pasted it, it didn't work. So let me go back to the chat and get your video. Or JP, do you mind putting it at the bottom again? Just because we got so many videos here. Wait for it. Wait, I think I got it. JP.
And why is that Zev? Because I've seen a few questions come up. Parents,
Yes.
for the three coaches that you requested, the way our format is, all coaches will see the players. It's just those coaches will see your players a little more. That's all. So don't worry if you select three coaches and you're like, but I want other coaches to see them as well. The way the format is, almost all the coaches will see your player.
Awesome. Yes. And that's very valid. I mean, you guys can believe him, but I've been there and it's really amazing that he set it up. It's a lot of work he puts in. So that's awesome. Okay. So first of all, we've got a highlight video here. He's class of 28. Is he here? Are you here, Jaden?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Oh, there you are. Perfect with that. Awesome. So Stafford Productions, guys, is great. I think they're a little overdone, but that's minimal stuff, so don't worry about that. I'm just starting right from the beginning. 5 minutes, too long. Nobody's gonna watch the second half of your video. And I bet you there's a bunch of good stuff in there. So split it up into two. Second, I want to watch more video of you. I can't. It's only more of this guy. I don't want that. I need it to be on your account. Otherwise, how else am I going to watch more video of you? So Rod said this already. Assume that they don't want to do anything extra and they don't have time to do anything extra. Mr. Jaden, I haven't seen your video yet. And already I'm like, this is going to be more work for me. I got to go find this guy. I got to Google him, pain in my butt, and I'm going to do it. Now, having said that, let's watch some soccer because that is the most important part. And this is cool. Like you get points for this. This is not good or bad. I just really want to know it very clearly though, like very quickly. Great. 3 positions. That's nothing bad with that. UPSL. I know UPSL is really good because I actually owned a UPSL team. I played against Rod's college or one of his club teams and we got smashed. My point though is that UPSL we're familiar with, but it does have its limitations, hence why you're going to camp. So that's great. All right, so I'm going to skip. So see, I'm skipping. Coach is like, that's the deal. They want to go as fast as can. I'm going to go full screen here. And I'm being picky, but I'm going to watch about 30 seconds. So I'm already 20 seconds in. This is why all of this extra I don't like. I'm 20 seconds in and I haven't seen any soccer. Again, you don't have to delete this video. I'm being extra picky, but this is also why the first clip should be soccer. I only have 10 minutes of my day. I'm going to watch some video and I'm already, that's just how the coaches are. So no big deal, but that's how minimal it is. I got a circle. Excellent. That's fantastic. Nice little flick in behind. Looks like I'm going to see an assist. Great assist. And that's awesome. I will just say really quickly to this, what I tell people often is I want to be able to see you super duper clearly in the videos. So I think I'm going to show you. If I go like this, see how I zoomed in on my computer and I can already see you a little bit better just because I zoomed in. That alone is so helpful for us. So like every clip, I do not need to see all of this space. I don't need to see the bleachers or the sky. Of course, I need to see the ball. But I would just say immediately zooming in helps the coaches go, I don't have to squint. I don't know who this is, right? Any friction, they're out because they just don't have time. They got to go to the next person. Also, in terms of a first clip, it's good, but I wouldn't call it like a 10 out of 10. It's a flick. The kid who scored probably was a good turn. But that said, I already can tell you're technical. So I'm already like, okay, now I'm curious about you for sure. Don't worry about the quality. It's not perfect. None of us expect like super duper nice cameras, but this is zoomed, which I prefer. Obviously, if it's super duper high quality, great. Another assist, good. This is nice. This is a better zoom. I'm also watching full screen on my computer. Excellent. So you said you're playing right back, center mid. So this is a good example. You're not going to have a lot of goals and assists because of your position. So this stuff is really good because I can then say, hey, I'd love to see an every touch video. So automatically I've watched, I would say, a minute's worth, which is about typical for coaches. And I'm telling you, in my opinion, D3, D2 for sure. But then I do have some questions for you. What's your GPA?
My GPA is a 4.2 right now.
Incredible. And that's really, really good. And are you only playing for the UPSL team or are you playing for any other teams?
I'm playing for an ECNL RL team.
Okay, so what I would do is obviously I want more videos. So do you have your own YouTube page?
I do, but I don't have it connected to my YouTube right now.
Okay, so you'll fix that because I have to be honest, when I look at UPSL, I immediately go, how can I watch you? Because I'm not gonna be able to come to any of your games because UPSL is kind of all over the place, even though I don't know if you guys know, but there's a guy in the Ivory Coast who played UPSL and he's now worth $100 million going to Liverpool probably. Anyways, point though is for college soccer purposes, I want to know you play ECNRL. That's helpful to me. Now I go, okay, he's going to go to a showcase. He's going to come to a camp. At UPSL, it's a weird dynamic. It's not your fault, but that's just the nature of the beast. So in summary, my diagnosis, and this is what I do on calls. If any of you choose to call me, we do this exact same version, is we look at your video and we basically go, hey, what do we think you can do? Now I'm doing it very quickly. I got 30 seconds to give you my opinion. I've never seen you in person. It's unlikely I'll see you in person. And so this is how the coaches, do their jobs, which is why it's helpful for me to have this perspective. So D3, D2 with your grades, you're looking at a very high level scholarship potentially if you're open to out of state and or high academic D3s. D2s also. I'm not writing off Division 1, but the video is not Division 1. So that's when I need more video. I need to see you more often. And what grade are you in?
I'm going into my junior year.
Okay, excellent. So that's also huge. If you had told me you're going into senior, I would basically tell you Division One's not going to happen. Because you just told me that you are going into your junior, I would say definitely would not write off Division One by any means. The only problem, and this is up to dad too, most people that want to go Division 1 who have a 4.0 do not want to go to Bowling Green or they don't want to go to Pacific. Now, you might be the exception, but typically if you have a 4.0, you'd rather go to Pomona Pitzer than a Division 1 Bowling Green because the academics at a D3 is better than the Bowling Green soccer. Now, everyone's different. You know, you all are allowed to have your own opinions, but I'm saying that because with dad, if you say, look, I don't care as long as he plays Division 1, I'm open to smaller D1s, then it's in the cards. If you go, look, I only want high academic Division 1s, Ivy Leagues kind of schools, then I would say we're not there. Again, I'm only being honest with you, not because I don't think you can do it. I never made my high school team and I played college and pro, but I hated that nobody said to me, you're not going to do it, Zev, unless you do these things. So I'm telling you, I need to see your video in its own YouTube like world. I'd also love to see you in person, which you're coming to the camp. So great job. Make sure before the camp, even if you haven't done it yet, send this video. It's good as it is. Like, don't, my criticisms are minimal. Send it as it is to the coaches. Let them know your grades, like in the subject line, it should say 4.0, ECNL, UPSL also. And I'm a right back. I would also, in my opinion, I think at least the clips are you playing right back for the most part. And if you're a center mid, even defensive, I might think there's a goal somewhere. So I'd pick one position. It would just be better for you. Let the coaches tell you can play others. You can obviously play as a 6, but I'd pick one position. I do want to look at some other videos, but I'd also like to let you ask a question. Do you have a question?
About the highlight video or about the camp
Just
itself?
in general, recruiting in general.
I just had a question about the camp. The one-on-one evaluations, are we gonna get one evaluation or do we get evaluation like from our top three schools at the camp?
You're getting an evaluation from one college coach. So we try to make it one of those three coaches that you've asked for specifically. Obviously, to a degree, depends on not only positions, but uh, asks, right? So, for example, if 80 players asked for UCLA and then, some players did, right? We can't give the UCLA coach 80 evaluations, right?
Mhm.
So it'll be sort of spread out among everybody. We try to give everybody an evaluation from those three coaches, but it just inevitably won't happen where it's one of those three coaches. But for the most part, most everybody will get one eval from one of those three coaches. We try our
And
best to make it work for everybody.
and they do
Okay.
a great job making work. I'll just reiterate, this is partially why, and we're talking to many of you now who are younger and going into junior and senior, is email the coaches beforehand. If the coach wants to talk to you, then obviously their chances go up that they can talk to you even outside of the evaluation. The evaluations that Rod is setting up for you guys are so valuable, even if it's not your dream school, because you're going to get an honest feedback of your level, which will then help you create your list or finalize your list, which that will then help you go to schools that are realistic because there's only so much time. The analogy I give is Indiana Jones. The walls are closing in every day. They're getting smaller and smaller. So if you spend a lot of time climbing up a wall that has no bearing on it, you're going to fall to the bottom and get squished and you don't get to play soccer. Versus I'm climbing up this wall, but somebody tells me this wall there's no light at the end of that tunnel. You can go switch somewhere else and actually get recruited. And then you can always transfer. Once you're in college, I tell this story. Once I had my first pro contract, getting a second pro contract was not nearly as difficult. So better to find some place than no place. Okay, we have another video.
And
Unless
really
Rob.
fast, and let me just add that, sorry, also you get your evaluation from this one coach, right? Regardless if that's your dream school. But you can just go up to that other coach and then just ask him, to tell you about it, right? So for example, if again, UCLA is my dream school, I'm getting evaluated by Cal State Dominguez Hills. Okay, great. I'm taking all the information from Cal State Dominguez Hills. I'm learning about what another college coach wants to know about me, no problem. But at any point, go to the UCLA coach and say, hey, coach, I'm playing on this field right here in front of you. You're coaching my game. I'm really interested in UCLA. Whatever, whatever you want, right? So you can sort of do that, even though it won't be formal, written and verbal, it's still something you can do.
Awesome. I want to just address one question in the chat about the video. They said last week they went to Soccer Masters, which is another high academic camp. The Ivy League coaches said they do not really make decisions until fall and spring of senior year. So why would this video be too late for D1? He would be too late for D1 if, in my opinion, I'm just one opinion, if he was going into senior year. And the reason is, to Michael's question, they're not making decisions fall of spring if they like you. They're making decisions if they're going to offer you an offer. So if he had no interest playing ECNL at UPSL level, going into a senior year, in my opinion, sending this one video was not going to get an Ivy League school to respond. If he had sent 20 videos prior and it was his senior year and they're deciding to say yes or no, that's a different factor. But they're not deciding your senior year at the Ivy League level your senior year if whether or not they like you. They're deciding whether to say yes or no, which means they've already liked you for quite some time. I know there's more questions. So if you have a question, Rod can answer it in the chat. I'm going to keep going through some videos. So here is the next video. Reviewing this video to see if they can play college soccer. This is Maxim. So 2027 MLS Next, super helpful in a way. Like I like this more than Staff Productions. I know they're all like well produced, but like I got the information I need. It's very quick and easy. The one thing is University Prep for 5.0. You can see it's down here. That's totally good. Okay, now let's watch the video. Dun, 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 dun. Good. Now, awesome. No circle, no circle, no circle, no circle, no circle. So it can't take that long to have a circle. And that's your first clip, which is like, I would say, an every touch video clip. I wouldn't call that a highlight video. Next clip, far away. Taka's great. We love Taka. It's just far away. Do you score here? Well, why? That's got to be your first clip, obviously. So that's easy fix. Definitely got to change that. Again, did you already have a circle on this clip? Circle, no circle, no circle, no circle. Got to have a circle. Always have a circle. Otherwise, like, I don't know who you are. Assuming you're the one who tackled it, which is also a great moment, but you're too far zoomed out, so I can barely tell who you are. I'm going to do one more clip here. We love Taka, though. Taka is good. Okay, good. Circle. It's too big of a circle. I don't know which one you are. Oh, you're the kid dribbling. Another great moment. I would zoom in, and I would use that as probably a third clip. So I obviously would love to watch more. Let's see if there's more video of you. Okay, cool. This is good. Now, this is a good example. I like seeing this. So see how this has 36 views, 12. Anything with under 10 views means you didn't send it out enough, or you haven't sent it out at all, which is a problem because you should send it out like a lot more. This one was his main video he sent out 6 months ago and got a lot of views. Is that different than this one? I'm so different. 3 minutes. So these are different. Great. Another highlight video. That's totally fine. These are highlights. Okay, no more highlights. I can watch all these and see the best moments. I need an every touch video now because I think you're a right back. Is that correct? Yeah. Inverted right back, which is awesome. I could see you playing left mid. I like this video. You are an MLS Next. I like this video. Are you here, Maxim?
No, he's doing a community service tonight. He's volunteering, so his dad's listening and watching.
Perfect. Dad, you're perfect. I love talking to parents. Can I just ask his GPA?
Yeah, it's 5.0. It's a weighted average. So
amazing. We love the weighted. Love the weighted. What's his year? What grad year is he?
He's a 2027 graduate.
Okay, so he's going into senior year. Okay.
He's
so
a rising, correct.
Rising senior. And how many calls has he had with high academic schools?
He's been invited to Yale in December, Georgetown, Notre Dame.
When you say invited, are you talking about a camp or like an official visit?
Not official visit, but the coach has been communicating directly with him, Brian Weiss, and then the coach from Notre Dame through our contact. He just recently engaged with him, so he's personally invited him to the ID camp over there as well.
Now, no phone calls yet.
Yes, one phone call so far. We've had text messages with the coaches to communicate with them after the camp. Rod was at the last camp with Bart Nason, and after that, he got a couple of text messages. One from St. Louis asking to see what his schedule is. They wanted to talk to him, schedule a time.
Okay. That's awesome. My concern for camps in December of high academic schools, of the ones you've mentioned, they will know their top students at this point, especially those big schools you just mentioned. And I didn't hear any mention of like a Bowdoin or Chicago or Trinity, and maybe he doesn't want any of those, but those are amazing high academic schools. With his grades and his ability, he's a no-brainer. And Rod I don't know everything. It's just my opinion.
Right.
That's a no-brainer. So if I was you, it's great you have those D1s say in the cards. You should go to those games in the fall. You should not wait until December because they are done by February. So to me, if that's the last chance you're going to get seen by them and it's not even at a showcase, I would tell you I'm very worried that those are not realistic and they're not going to happen. On the flip side, the high academic D3s that you're texting with, they should be doing pre-reads pretty soon and going on official visits this fall and turning into offers because he's definitely good enough for those schools.
Correct.
Cool. Awesome.
The thing with us, we're in Texas, so we don't it's tough to be in like California. All those kids get seen all the time. So
yeah, well said. So what I would say to that is you have to go to a camp like Rod's where the high academic schools are going to be there. And then I would pick, especially since you're going into senior year, I would pick 3 to 4 schools you're going to apply to with or without soccer and go to
Correct.
those camps individually and let the coaches know I will be applying to your school with or without soccer. I am super good. I play MLS Next. I have a 5.0 GPA. I'm in talks with high academic Division I programs. I'm very interested in your school. And if you get significant genuine interest, whether it be at this camp or any of the other camps or if through email, my only thing is to tell you what I'm always concerned with, and I went to a no-name D1 school and I do what I love today. You can go to Georgetown or whatever and not get a job when you leave. If the whole point of school is to go live a life you love, I can tell you being a college athlete is phenomenal, even if you end up at Trinity or some smaller D3 program versus I'm going to Georgetown, I'm going to Notre Dame. They've been really genuine with me. It's December and I have nothing. You'll feel very uncomfortable and it's not very a fun experience. And all I'm asking is send some emails to high academic schools. You don't have to go to their camps right tomorrow. You're going to a great camp, obviously, this week. So that will be very helpful. But it is definitely to say for the Georgetowns and Notre Dames, like Notre Dame are picking the national team kids, and that's it. That's what they can do. So that just makes me a little nervous. But having said that, if you want to talk more, let me know, and I'm happy to talk
Sure.
more.
I mean, we spoke with
Wait,
Case
sorry to
Western.
interrupt you, Jamie. Sorry, I
Yes,
apologize. Because I know we have a lot of things, and we probably honestly have to, this would be an individual conversation, I would say,
Sure.
big,
No problem.
and I apologize on that. So even this will be the last one because I know a couple of things. Everybody's got a lot of, they want their video to be analyzed. So Zev, can you just give them how they can just reach out to you? Because this is something that you would also do like as a consultation for the first time as part of any
Yes,
consultation,
thank
right?
you. I should have mentioned that. So I'm going to give you guys my
So,
website on
so
the chat.
let's do that. Yeah, because I think there's a lot of people that want to do this, but obviously, we don't want necessarily have, I mean, we could be here all night. It's valuable to everybody.
Yeah.
But
I got out of, I forgot where I lost track of time. So
just in
yes,
respect of time, yeah, it's just so we can wrap
my
up.
website is collegesoccer.org. You can DM me on Instagram, which is Zev Football. So you guys have seen, most of you, I think, have seen my pages. If you haven't, and I'm new to you, it's a pleasure. Basically, this is what we do I do every call is free. We look at your video before the call. We'll go over your video during it. And then we'll basically determine whether we can help you from I am a recruiting service. Technically, I'm not an agency though, so it's not allowed really for anyone to just like directly connect you. Plus, Rod will tell you he does not want to hear from me. Even I've never seen you in person. I won't ever see you in person. What Rod wants from me is to go, hey, your video is good. Hey, your email was written correctly. Hey, you want to come into my camp? I'm here to educate you guys on how to get recruited. And that's, you'll see on my Instagram of the other students we've helped and whatnot. But DM me and we look at your videos all the time. But I know we're kind of wrapping up, so I'll leave it at that.
Do you have an email address as well they can email you, Zev?
Yeah, sorry. Yes, email me at zev@collegesoccerguys.com. I'll put that in the chat. And yeah, you can also text me. I put my phone number already in the chat a few times, but while we're clearing up here, you can text me and you'll speak to my team and I, and we'll try and help you as much as we can.
Yeah, so you have a great resource in Zev. So again, utilize that, please. I think it's really helpful. This specific to this weekend, utilize the information of the coaches, right? So again, I just want to reiterate, all players, you should ask coaches as many questions as you can when you're by yourself, especially if, I mean, at any point really in the in-between times, just being respectful to their time, of course, not let the coaches have lunch, so don't do it during lunch. But when you have time to speak with them, that's what the purpose of these camps are, to ask them those questions and to make sure you're clear on the process as much as possible. So you will do, like I said, a group chat as well. So that's where you want to ask the general questions to college coaches. So start thinking about those opportunities to ask some of those general questions now. So when we do have a panel and you're sitting in front of 3 or 4 coaches or 15 coaches, you have some general questions and then also have some specific questions that you have. But like I said, even if your eval is not your quote unquote dream school coach, you still want to make sure you have a time to speak to that coach. All right, you guys. Zev, I appreciate you big time, man. Thank you very much. And you guys, look forward to seeing you on the weekend. It's going to be fantastic weather. It should be great in Long Beach. If you want to update any of your stuff, I sent you how to update there. And then tomorrow, if you're updating coaches, that needs to be done pretty much by tonight because tomorrow rosters will be sort of frozen in time there. So, all right, Zev, anything else you want to add?
Just DM me on Instagram, Zev Football. That's the best way to reach me. And I appreciate everyone saying thank you, which is super cool. So that's all I got.
All right, you guys. Thank you very much. I will send this out as well. All right, you guys. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
See you guys. Of course. Bye.